Welcome back to Squared Away Garage. I know it's been a while, guys. I haven't been doing nothing though. I've been working on this 72 truck behind me that some of you guys may recognize. Winter before last, I did all of the wiring on this truck. It was coming off of being freshly built. Showed up here 100% without a nervous system. And I did all the wiring on that. You can go back and look at the videos if you're interested in that. So anyway, the owner of the truck has had the truck all last summer, and it has had some problems with it, and really wasn't enjoying driving it. It's set way too low. She couldn't get it in and out of the driveway. Tires were rubbing in different places, mostly in the back, believe it or not, because the offset's wrong on the wheels. It was running hot. Things were making some noises and rattling. Brakes weren't working. Just a kind of a punch list of things that needed to be gone through and addressed on the truck. So I got it about 6 weeks ago, at the time of making this video, and I've been kind of working through it slowly. I found some pretty interesting things on it too. It's been kind of crazy. The tuner that got a hold of this truck and tuned the engine, it's got an LS in it. The guy that tuned it totally jacked up the fan controls on it. Fans weren't even coming on, the cooling fans. They weren't working. No wonder it was running hot. He turned them off. So not impressed with that really. Brakes, it's got too big of a cam. So I ended up having to put an electric vacuum pump in it for brakes. And did some things like new coilovers on it. We put some longer coilovers in the rear to get the rear up, and changed the spring rate on the front coilovers to get the front up. And it's riding real nice now. It stops. It cools itself off. It's nice. But I got a few miles on it, and I've just finished up a service, transmission fluid, engine, still had the brake-in fluid in it previously, got that all done, and just finalizing some details. Okay, so what I'm doing today is I'm going to address the tire rubbing issue in the rear. It's a Currie 9-inch rear end, and with their standard wheel studs in it. And I could get a 1/4 inch or a 6 millimeter spacer in there and still safely get the lug nuts on. And for those of you who have never messed with spacers before, you can only do so much. Keep that in mind before your lug nuts are no longer going to be safe and strong enough to keep your wheels on, especially on a back wheel where you're trying to do burnouts and stuff. Bad idea, guys. So spacers themselves are not necessarily bad, I don't think, but you have to properly install them. And today, that's what we're going to do. Rear end in this still needs to be serviced, just to check and make sure everything's working correctly, no metal in there, nothing's coming apart. And I'm going to put in a 1/2 inch spacer. There's the 1/4 inch that was there before. There's the 1/2. But to do this, I've got to change the wheel studs in the axle, or in the axles. So that's today's project.
Let's get busy.
So when you get spacers, they'll tell you in the directions that you need 6 to 8 threads, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 threads on your stud for your lug nuts to safely keep your wheels on. I don't like that. I'm going to explain what I do and why. So this is an old school acorn nut, open-ended acorn lug nut, right? So you can see the stud, it comes through the end. So how I determine if I am not getting enough thread contact is when I put a spacer in, I use one of these instead of the fancy lug nut that comes on the wheels. And I thread it all the way on there and tighten it. If I can't see, like this has got a unthreaded portion here at the end. If the face of this lug nut right here is not out here at the edge of these threads, like this, then that lug nut is not on far enough. It's not making full contact. And that's what I use to determine whether or not we need to put new studs in a situation like this. So if this lug nut was halfway out here on this unthreaded portion and I'm missing two threads in there on the end of that stud, then I don't consider that lug nut to be safe. That's my method. You guys do what you want. But if I were to go by what is in the written directions from China on some of these spacers that you get a hold of, this is acceptable, even though, you know, the threads probably end right about there in this lug nut. You're missing maybe 20% of your thread engagement with your lug nut.
Hi.
Okay, so take the caliper off. Go to reverse. There's a nut here,
Got it.
or a bolt in the bolt.
I see him.
Okay, it goes out. The bottom one, when it starts to come out, you're going to run into this with the tool. here's the next issue. We've got a nice deep lug nut, but these studs are 1 inch longer than the studs I took out. And I put a 1/2 inch spacer in there. So now I have a 1/2 inch too much thread potentially. So the ends of these have this nice non-threaded section on there that's about 1/4 inch. Pretty sure that's probably gonna go away at a minimum. But I've got 3 lug nuts on and they're bottomed out. Look at here. That ain't gonna work. So we're definitely gonna have to do a little stud modification. And if you're wondering why I didn't get a shorter stud, because Currie offers exactly 2 that fit their rear ends. This one and the one that was in there. So I started by taking just the 1/4 inch nub off. I kind of already knew, but I was just doing this to show. I measured the depth of this and did some measurements before I changed the studs. So 1/4 inch nub isn't gonna get me there. So I'm gonna go ahead and have to take all these down a full 1/2 inch before they're gonna work. It is what it is, but that's hot rodding. Sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. This does 2 things for me. It acts as a reference. If it'll stay where I want it, I have a reference for how much I've taken off, and then I've got this on the threads and it'll help me push out any of the metal that's on the edge there so I can clean it up without having any problems with the stud and the threads later. So there we go, just a touch under a 1/2 inch that I took off. I took off 0.465 inches of stud to get that lug nut to fit correctly. So now I guess I just got 9 more to go. Well, there you go. Simple Saturday project completed. Wheel studs installed. Have good space between the inside of the fender and the back of the tire now. Should take care of the problems on this truck. I'm ready to go for a ride, but I do have a couple of little details to tidy up on this truck, so not quite ready to roll it out of here just yet. Sure appreciate you guys checking out the channel. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And I'll do a little better job about getting some other content up for you here. All right, guys, take care. See ya.